After another heated argument with Ryan about marriage, he got up and retreated to the guest room. The silence that followed felt suffocating. At 2 a.m, I couldn't sleep. My pride warred with my love for him, and eventually, love won. I decided to apologize, to make peace, to be the bigger person, as I always did. I padded quietly down the hallway in my bare feet, the cool hardwood floor beneath me. As I approached the guest room door, I heard his voice. He was on the phone with someone. I stopped, my hand hovering over the doorknob. Dating and marriage are two completely different things, Ryan said, his voice low but clear through the thin door. Maya can't handle the pressures and rules of a wealthy family. I'm not marrying her for her own good. Trust me. My hand froze in midair. My breath caught in my throat. Anyway, there's no one else suitable to marry right now, so we'll just take it day by day, he continued. After all, she saved my life 5 years ago. If I broke up with her now, I couldn't bring myself to do it. The guilt would eat me alive. The words hit me like physical blows. Each sentence carved a deeper wound into my chest. I stood there, trembling, as the man I'd loved for 5 years casually dismissed our entire relationship as obligation and guilt. I didn't push open the door to confront him. I didn't scream or cry or demand answers. Instead, I walked back to our bedroom on legs that felt disconnected from my body. I lay down on the bed we'd shared for years and stared at the ceiling with dry, burning eyes until the first rays of sunlight crept through the curtains. Something inside me had broken. But strangely, I felt calmer than I had in years. The next morning, I sat across from Ryan's mother at an upscale cafe. Catherine Harrison sipped her coffee elegantly, her posture perfect, her expression carefully neutral. "Does your offer from 5 years ago still stand?" I asked, my voice steady. "I'm not choosing Ryan anymore. I want the money." Catherine's perfectly manicured hand paused mid-air, the coffee cup suspended between the table and her lips. She set it down slowly, studying my face with those sharp eyes that missed nothing. After what felt like an eternity, she spoke. "Are you certain about this, Maya? Once you accept the money, I will never allow Ryan to marry you as long as I live." The scene before me was eerily similar to one from 5 years ago. Back then, when Catherine had first offered me money to leave Ryan, I'd refused without hesitation. I'd even sworn an oath, "Ryan and I truly love each other. My grandfather and I won't charge him for the treatment. We're not that kind of family." How naive I'd been. How foolishly, desperately naive. I met Catherine's gaze without flinching. "Don't worry. Once I take the money, I'm prepared to end things with Ryan completely." Something flickered in Catherine's eyes. Was it respect? Approval? She nodded slowly. "Very well. Give me your account details, and I'll transfer the funds within the hour." As she stood to leave, she paused and added quietly, "You know Ryan's temperament. If you suddenly bring up breaking up, he'll never agree to it. He's stubborn that way." My steps faltered slightly, but I nodded. "I understand." When I returned to the apartment, Ryan was in the kitchen cooking breakfast. The domestic scene, him in his casual clothes, humming softly as he flipped eggs, should have warmed my heart. Instead, I felt nothing but a hollow ache. Memories flooded back unbidden. Ryan, the prestigious heir of the Harrison family empire, fumbling adorably in the kitchen when he first started learning to cook for me. Over the years, he'd mastered hundreds of dishes, all tailored to my preferences. He'd memorized which spices I loved, which textures I couldn't stand, how I liked my tea prepared. I'd thought it meant he loved me. Now I knew it meant he felt guilty. "Why are you up so early? Still angry about last night?" Ryan came over and wrapped his arms around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. "I was wrong yesterday. I'm sorry. Let's have breakfast, and this afternoon we'll go try on wedding dresses. I promise, no more delays." If I hadn't overheard that phone conversation, would have melted into his embrace. I would have kissed him and forgiven him, as I always did. But now, his touch felt suffocating. I hesitated, torn between my newfound resolve and the desperate desire to believe in the fantasy just a little longer. Finally, I whispered, "All right." But my dream shattered before it even fully formed. At the bridal boutique, I just slipped into a beautiful wedding dress, ivory silk with delicate lace sleeves, exactly the style I'd always imagined. I stepped out of the dressing room, my heart pounding with a mixture of pain and desperate hope. Ryan glanced up from his phone briefly. "That looks nice," he said distractedly. Before I could respond, his phone rang. He answered immediately. "What? When did this happen?" "I'll be right there." He looked at me, already moving toward the door. "Maya, I'm sorry. There's an emergency at the company. I have to go. We'll reschedule, I promise." And just like that, he was gone. I stood there in the wedding dress, surrounded by mirrors reflecting my image from every angle. A bride with no groom. A woman with no future. The sales assistant approached hesitantly. "Miss, would you like to?" "I'm done," I said quietly, turning back toward the dressing room. "I'm done with all of this." The moment Ryan left the bridal shop, my phone buzzed. A message from Catherine with an address and a single line. "In case you don't know what reason to use for breaking up, I'll give you a hand." I stared at the address, a high-end restaurant in the business district. Catherine had arranged a blind date for Ryan. She was giving me evidence, ammunition, a justifiable reason to leave. In all my years with Ryan, I hadn't seen Catherine often. But I'd always known that if we married, she would be a wonderful mother-in-law. She was intelligent, graceful, and surprisingly kind beneath her aristocratic exterior. Now that she understood there was no future for Ryan and me, she was actively helping me escape. I should have gone to that restaurant. I should have caught Ryan red-handed with his blind date. But fate had other plans. Halfway to the restaurant, I witnessed an elderly man collapse on the sidewalk. His face had turned ashen, and he was clutching his chest. While other pedestrians stood around filming on their phones or hurrying past, I rushed to his side. My grandfather's training kicked in automatically. I checked his pulse points, examined his tongue, noted his labored breathing. "Sir, can you hear me? Stay with me." I performed emergency acupressure on specific points while someone called an ambulance. By the time the paramedics arrived, I'd stabilized him enough to be transported safely. At the hospital, I stayed until his family arrived and the doctors confirmed he would recover. By the time I left, it was late evening. I'd missed my chance to confront Ryan about the blind date, but strangely, I felt no regret. Saving a life mattered more than catching a lie. When I returned to our apartment, I began packing my belongings. I moved methodically, emotionlessly, separating my life from Ryan's piece by piece. All afternoon, Catherine had been sending me photos. Ryan with a beautiful woman at the restaurant, both of them smiling. Ryan holding open a car door for her. Ryan laughing at something she said. They looked perfect together, two people from the same world, speaking the same language of wealth and privilege. I felt calmer than I expected. Each photo Catherine sent felt like another thread being cut, freeing me from a web I hadn't even realized was trapping me. When Ryan came home, he found me sorting through my clothes in the bedroom. He looked exhausted, his tie loosened, his hair slightly mussed. "Maya, I'm so sorry about today. Let's reschedule the dress fitting for this weekend, okay?" He moved toward me, reaching out. His phone buzzed before I could respond. He glanced at the screen, and something shifted in his expression. "Oh, Jason is inviting us to hang out at his club tonight. Let's go for a bit. When we get back, I'll help you, whatever you're doing here." He hadn't even asked why I was packing. He was so confident in my devotion, so certain I would never leave. This wasn't the right moment for confrontation. I nodded and followed him, one last time. Jason's private club was in an exclusive building downtown. As soon as we entered the VIP room, I sensed the tension in the air. Jason, who usually greeted me with warm hugs and called me his favorite sister-in-law, was avoiding my gaze. His eyes kept darting to a woman sitting in the corner. I followed his look. In the dim, flickering lights, I recognized her immediately, the woman from Catherine's photos. Ryan's blind date. Ryan led me to the center of the room and sat me down, his hand possessive on my lower back. He handed me a glass of juice, I never drank alcohol, and gestured casually toward Jason. So, who's your friend? Jason cleared his throat nervously. Ryan, Maya, this is my cousin Isabelle. She just returned from studying abroad. She doesn't know many people here yet, so I brought her along. Hope that's okay. Ryan's face revealed nothing. He nodded once toward Isabelle, a brief acknowledgement, then looked away. Hello. For several minutes, the room was filled with awkward small talk. I sat beside Ryan, acutely aware of every micro-expression that crossed his face. When Isabelle stood and walked toward us, I saw his jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. Hello, Maya. Mind if I sit here? Isabelle settled into the seat beside me before I could answer, cradling a small Yorkshire Terrier in her arms. Because my attention had been fixed on Ryan, I clearly saw him frown slightly when Isabelle sat so close to me. Interesting. I'm naturally reserved with strangers. Not knowing how to navigate this obvious setup, I managed an awkward smile. Of course. Isabelle smiled warmly, but her eyes were calculating. I heard your family has a legendary medical background. Coco here has been refusing food lately. Could you take a look at her for me? Practicing medicine and saving lives has been my family's tradition for generations. Despite the uncomfortable situation, I asked seriously, besides loss of appetite, what other symptoms is she showing? Isabelle laughed, a tinkling sound that grated on my nerves. Oh, there's no patient. Just an uncomfortable little dog. But it's still a life, right? Maya wouldn't refuse to help, would she? The dismissive tone struck a nerve. My family has always been small. When my grandfather was young, he nearly died protecting certain secrets. For years, he lived under a false identity, hiding from those who would exploit his abilities. Eventually, he was still sought out and forced to save someone. Everyone who knew my grandfather's background treated our family with deep respect. Even though I'm female, once people learned I was the sole heir of the Chin family's medical legacy, very few ever spoke to me with such casual disrespect. Isabelle. Where are your manners? Do you even know who you're talking to? Jason snapped, his face reddening. He turned to me quickly. Maya, I'm so sorry. She's been spoiled by the family. Please don't take it personally. After I started dating Ryan, most of his friends had asked me to examine their parents. I once detected early-stage cancer in Jason's mother before any symptoms appeared. Though Ryan had already recovered from his illness by then, his friends remained half-skeptical of my abilities. But Jason, for Ryan's sake, convinced his mother to get tested. The tumor was caught and treated before it metastasized. That's why Jason, among all Ryan's friends, has always been genuinely warm toward me. He knows I saved his mother's life. Miss Isabelle doesn't understand medicine, does she? I hadn't spoken yet when Ryan's voice cut through the tension. But his words offered no comfort. Diagnosing humans and examining pets are completely different. Maya isn't petty. Miss Isabelle meant no harm. She won't take it to heart. I felt as if I'd been slapped. Similar incidents had happened before, people making snide comments about me, questioning my abilities or my place in Ryan's world. Each time, Ryan had defended me fiercely. Once, he'd actually ended a business partnership because the partner insulted me. But now, because Isabelle was from an appropriate family, because she was a suitable match for someone of his status, he could be infinitely tolerant. I'm sorry, Maya. That was rude of me. Isabelle placed her cool hand on my forearm. You don't mind, do you? Her touch made my stomach churn. Nausea rose in waves. Afraid I might vomit or say something I'd regret in front of everyone, I stood abruptly. I don't mind at all. But I need to use the restroom. Excuse me. I spent a long time in the bathroom, gripping the sink, breathing deeply, trying to calm the storm of emotions threatening to overwhelm me. When I finally felt steady enough to return, I decided this farce had gone on long enough. I would go back, tell Ryan I felt sick, and leave. Tomorrow, I would end this relationship properly. But as I approached the VIP room, I realized the door hadn't closed completely. Voices drifted out into the hallway. Ryan, even though Isabelle is my cousin, I have to be honest. Jason's voice was serious, almost angry. If you want to get back together with her, you need to be clear with Maya first. You've been together for years. She saved your life, for God's sake. If you have any conscience, don't treat her like a fool. My hand, which had been reaching for the doorknob, froze in midair. Get back together? Ryan and Isabelle had been together before? They had a history? With Maya's personality, if I told her we should break up, she'd leave immediately. Ryan's voice was heavy with frustration. She has no family left in this world. Where would she go without me? Don't interfere in this, Jason. Keep your mouth shut around Maya. I'll handle Isabelle myself. From his tone, it was clear. Ryan wanted to negotiate marriage arrangements with Isabelle while keeping me conveniently in place. His guilty conscience, his safety net, his loyal physician who would never leave him. I took a deep breath, withdrew my hand from the door, and walked away. Each step felt lighter than the last. Within 30 minutes of arriving home, Ryan returned. He rushed into the bedroom, looking genuinely concerned. Maya, are you feeling unwell? Should we go to the hospital? The worry in his eyes looked so real. His concern seemed so authentic. But I knew the truth now. He wasn't worried about losing me, he was worried about losing his obligation, his debt, his convenient excuse. I already took medicine, I said flatly. Did you forget? I know how to treat my own conditions. He studied my face for a long moment, searching for something. When he seemed satisfied that I wasn't suspecting anything, he visibly relaxed. That's good. Oh, by the way, Jason is throwing a welcome home dinner for Isabelle tomorrow night. Want to come? I closed my eyes briefly. No. I have a house call scheduled tomorrow evening. Oh. Okay. He was already looking at his phone again, distracted, unconcerned. I woke in the middle of the night, thirsty. As I returned from the kitchen with a glass of water, I noticed Ryan's phone screen glowing on his pillow. He'd fallen asleep while texting someone. In 5 years together, I had never invaded his privacy. I'd never checked his phone, read his messages, or questioned his whereabouts. I'd trusted him completely. But as I reached to turn off the screen and move the phone to his nightstand, the message displayed on the screen made my heart stop. I didn't expect Aunt Catherine would set us up on a blind date. Ryan, I've missed you so much these past few years. I checked the timestamp. Sent this afternoon, right after Ryan left the bridal boutique. He hadn't replied to that message. The next message came an hour later, around the time Ryan and I had arrived at Jason's club. Ryan, is this the girlfriend you've been with for years? She's pretty, I suppose, but she seems so dull and unsophisticated. What do you even see in her? Ryan's response had been quick. Even though our families want us to marry, Maya and I haven't broken up. Watch your words. It seemed to have been right after that exchange when Isabelle sat beside me with her dog. The next message from Ryan made my blood run cold. You didn't drive? Wait there after everyone leaves. I'll arrange for someone to take you home safely. Then, please reply. Don't make me worry. It's not that I don't want to be with you, but Maya is innocent in all this. I don't want to hurt her. Isabelle's response: you should know that in families like ours, marriage rarely goes according to personal wishes. But if you truly want to marry her, I'll support you. I can even speak to Aunt Catherine on your behalf. More than marrying you myself, I want you to be happy. Ryan had taken a long time to respond. His final message had been sent just 30 minutes ago, while I was already in bed, pretending to sleep. Everyone thinks Maya and I are perfect together, that our relationship is unshakable. But only I know the truth. I've never forgotten you, Isabelle. Not for a single day in all these years. I'll make things clear with Maya soon. From the very beginning, from the moment I first saw you, you've been the only woman I ever wanted to marry. That message had been sent 30 minutes ago. During that same period, I'd been unable to sleep, my mind racing. But I clearly remembered Ryan getting up, placing a cup of warm water on my nightstand, kissing my forehead gently, and tucking the blanket carefully around me. It must be exhausting, I thought distantly, juggling two women at once. Professing eternal love to one while playing the devoted boyfriend to another. I set his phone back down on the pillow and returned to bed. My hands were trembling, but my mind was strangely clear. I pressed my fingers to the Naguan and Shinmen acupressure points on my wrists, ancient techniques my grandfather had taught me for calming the spirit. Eventually, I fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. The next morning, Ryan left early for work. Shortly after, my phone chimed with a friend request. The name on the account was Isabelle Chen. I stared at the request for several seconds. Then, with deliberate calm, I accepted it. Her first message appeared immediately. My cousin told me a lot about you. To be honest, if we'd met under different circumstances, I'd actually like to be friends. But you must understand, there's no room for a third person in a relationship. Ryan and I are perfectly matched. We share the same background, the same social circle, the same understanding of what our lives require. We'll definitely marry eventually. I don't want things to get ugly, so I'm asking you nicely, please leave on your own. It's better for everyone involved. By the time that message arrived, I was already packing. I'd removed all traces of our couplehood from the apartment the previous day. Now I was systematically sorting through everything I owned, deciding what to take and what to discard. Anything in the apartment that was mine, I had purchased myself. I took what I could carry. The rest I planned to throw away or donate. When I didn't respond immediately, Isabelle sent another message. You might not know the real reason Ryan fell so gravely ill 5 years ago. Actually, it was because of me. I was young and immature. After a stupid argument, I broke up with him impulsively and flew to Europe for my studies. I only learned later that he became critically ill after I left. He nearly died. The doctors said it was a broken heart, combined with a mysterious condition they couldn't diagnose. My hands stilled on the sweater I was folding. She continued, I'm actually grateful to you, Maya. Thank you for saving his life. I'm not saying this to be cruel, just to make you understand the truth. What you think is love might just be gratitude and obligation on his part. Ryan feels affection for you, but how much of that is actual romantic love? You should ask yourself that question. I couldn't name what I felt. From that night when I overheard Ryan's phone call, my emotions had been wrapped in cotton, muffled and distant. I'd been operating on instinct and logic, moving through the motions of leaving. But Isabelle's message awakened something sharp and painful. For a moment, I let myself feel the full weight of it, the betrayal, the wasted years, the humiliation of being someone's pity project. Then I carefully folded that pain away and tucked it into a corner of my heart to examine later. I had nothing against Isabelle personally. Her words were condescending, yes, but that confidence came from a lifetime of privilege and security. Besides, she was merely stating facts. She hadn't been intentionally cruel, just honest in the way that people who've never struggled can afford to be. Thank you for telling me, I typed back. You've actually helped me make up my mind. I'll be leaving soon. I wish you both happiness. After sending that message, I put my phone down and returned to packing. This apartment had been my home for 5 years. I didn't want to leave anything behind that Isabelle might find later and misunderstand, or worse, mock. I packed meticulously, checking every drawer, every closet, every shelf. Before wheeling my suitcase out the door, I walked through each room one final time. The living room where we'd watched movies curled up together. The kitchen where Ryan had learned to cook for me. The bedroom where we'd shared whispered conversations in the dark. Only after confirming I'd left nothing that could identify me did I feel ready to leave. I hadn't expected to encounter Catherine at the airport. She was dressed elegantly in a designer coat, though I could see the formal dress underneath. She must have rushed here directly from Isabelle's welcome party. "I thought you were leaving in a few days," Catherine said, studying my face carefully. "Have you made everything clear with Ryan?" I briefly told her what had happened over the past 2 days, the overheard phone call, the blind date setup, the scene at Jason's club, Ryan's messages with Isabelle, and finally, Isabelle's conversation with me. When I mentioned Isabelle contacting me directly, Catherine's eyebrows rose in surprise. "I set up that blind date purely to give you a justifiable reason to leave. To be completely honest, if it were my personal choice, would much rather have you as my daughter-in-law than Isabelle." I didn't know how to respond to that. Catherine stepped forward and gently straightened my collar, her touch motherly and tender. "Take care of yourself from now on, Maya. Learn to love yourself first, before you ever love anyone else. If you're unsure about anything, you can always contact me. And most importantly," her eyes held mine intently, "don't fall in love lightly. Make sure the next person deserves you." I hadn't cried once during these past few terrible days. But Catherine's kindness, her maternal concern, broke something open inside me. Tears welled up and spilled over before I could stop them. "Thank you," I whispered through my tears. "Thank you for seeing me as a person, not just as an obligation or a convenience. Thank you for being able to see things from my perspective, even though I'm not your son's choice." Catherine pulled me into a brief hug. "You were always my choice, dear girl. Ryan is the fool here, not you. Never forget that." After saying goodbye to Catherine, I pulled out my phone and opened Ryan's chat. My fingers trembled slightly as I attached the screenshots I'd taken last night of his conversation with Isabelle. Then I typed a simple message: "Let's break up. I wish you happiness." Before I could second-guess myself, I hit send, then systematically blocked Ryan on every platform. Phone, messaging apps, social media, I severed every digital connection. Then I boarded my plane to Riverside City, leaving my old life behind. Before Catherine had invited me to treat Ryan 5 years ago, my grandfather and I had lived in a small village in the south with breathtaking scenery. I'd started school early and skipped several grades. After finishing university at 18, I'd stayed by my grandfather's side to study traditional Chinese medicine. These past 5 years with Ryan, I'd remained in Sterling City, rarely venturing out to see the world. Catherine had paid me a 7-figure consultation fee, the amount my grandfather should have received but refused out of kindness. With that money, I didn't need to worry about my immediate future. I'd bought the plane ticket randomly, picking a city I'd never visited but had always been curious about. As I settled into my seat and prepared for takeoff, I felt lighter than I had in years. A gentle tap on my arm interrupted my thoughts. "Excuse me, miss? You're the woman who saved that man by the roadside a few days ago, aren't you?" I turned to find a handsome man in his early 30s smiling at me. After a few seconds, recognition dawned. "Oh. Yes, it's you. You're already discharged from the hospital?" He nodded enthusiastically. "I was on a business trip when I suddenly collapsed. I still can't believe my luck that a trained physician happened to be passing by. The doctors said if you hadn't acted so quickly, I might not have made it. I've been hoping to find you to properly thank you." "I'm just glad you're all right," I said sincerely. "It was the right thing to do." "Are you heading to Riverside City for a visit?" "Sort of. I'm starting over, I guess. Thinking about opening a clinic there." His eyes lit up. "Really? That's amazing. I actually live in Riverside City. If you need any help getting settled, finding a location for your clinic, navigating the business permits, anything at all, please don't hesitate to ask. My name is Marcus Chen, by the way." We talked throughout the entire flight. Marcus was easy to talk to, and for the first time in days, I found myself genuinely laughing. He told me about Riverside City's neighborhoods, the best places to eat, hidden gems tourists never found. After we landed, Marcus was in a hurry to return to his office. "I'm actually the assistant to the CEO of a major company here," he explained. "We've been in crisis mode all week. But please, take my contact information. I mean it about helping you settle in." After we exchanged phone numbers, he rushed off. I stood in the arrivals terminal of an unfamiliar city, my suitcase beside me, and felt something I hadn't expected. Hope. On the taxi ride to my hotel, I pulled out my phone and looked at the Riverside City travel guide Marcus had sent. Where should I visit first? What neighborhood would be best for a traditional medicine clinic? What was this new life going to look like? Meanwhile, back in Sterling City, Ryan finally checked his phone. He'd been in back-to-back meetings all morning. When he opened his messages and saw what I'd sent, his face went pale. The screenshots of his private conversation with Isabelle stared back at him, followed by those devastating words, "Let's break up. I wish you happiness." He tried calling immediately. The call wouldn't go through. He tried messaging, the messages wouldn't deliver. Panic rising, he attempted every other platform. Every single one showed the same result, blocked. I had disappeared from his life as completely as if I'd never existed. "Jason." Ryan burst out of the conference room, startling his friend who'd been waiting outside. "Quick, use your phone to call Maya." Jason saw the wild look in Ryan's eyes and understood something serious had happened. He dialed my number. The automated message informed him the call couldn't be completed. He tried sending a text message instead. 2 seconds later, a red exclamation mark appeared beside it, "Delivery failed." "What's going on? Did you break up with Maya?" Jason looked at Ryan with a mixture of concern and accusation. "What did you say to her? How did she end up blocking even me?" Jason genuinely considered me a friend. He'd always been grateful for what I'd done for his mother. Now, seeing me cut all contact, he felt angry on my behalf. "You know Maya has no family and barely any friends. Couldn't you have been gentler about it? Did you have to hurt her so badly that she'd block everyone connected to you?" Not far away, Isabelle saw the two men looking distressed and approached them. "What's wrong?" Ryan felt chaos swirling inside him. Ever since learning that Isabelle had returned from abroad, he'd known a day of reckoning would come. He'd known he would eventually have to choose between obligation and desire. But he'd never imagined I would be the one to walk away. He'd been so confident in my devotion, so certain I had nowhere else to go. Lost in his spiraling thoughts, Ryan didn't answer Isabelle. Jason replied absently, still trying to find ways to contact me. "I can't reach Maya." Isabelle's eyes widened slightly in surprise. "She really left? Just like that?" The two men turned to stare at her. "What do you mean?" Ryan's voice was dangerous, low. "You went to find Maya?" Isabelle, used to getting her way, bristled at his tone. "Yes, I did. Since you're too much of a coward to end things yourself, I told her the truth, about why you got sick 5 years ago, about our families wanting us to marry. I gave her a chance to leave with dignity." Jason pointed at Isabelle, so furious he could barely speak. "Didn't I tell you not to interfere?" Ryan shouted. Everyone in the vicinity turned to look at them. Isabelle felt completely wronged. "Why are you yelling at me? I was trying to help you. You clearly wanted to be with me but didn't know how to break things off with her. I made it easier for you." Ryan didn't waste another second. He strode toward the exit, heading for his car. Just as he was about to drive off, his mother's voice stopped him. "Don't look for her." Catherine stood outside the building, having just arrived. "Maya's already gone." Ryan felt his world tilting. "What do you mean? Did you drive her away?" His brain had stopped functioning properly. He no longer cared whether his words would hurt his mother or anyone else. Catherine's expression turned cold. "She's our family's benefactor. Your lifesaver. How could I possibly drive her away? You did this, Ryan. Your choices, your deception, your cowardice, You drove away the best thing that ever happened to you. Ryan had actually seen the breakup message earlier, but in the chaos of realizing he couldn't contact me, he hadn't opened the attachments. At Catherine's pointed look, he finally opened the screenshots I'd sent. His private conversation with Isabelle stared back at him. Every damning word he'd written. How did she? Maya never looks at my phone, he whispered. A look of scorn crossed Catherine's face. You ungrateful fool. You should thank whatever gods exist that you're my son and I can't disown you. If Maya's grandfather or father were still alive, do you think they'd let you get away with this? They saved your life, taught you their family's most precious secrets, and this is how you repay them. Ryan tried to deflect. I didn't mean to hurt her. Then tell me, Catherine interrupted sharply, what exactly were you planning? Were you going to marry Isabelle while keeping Maya as your mistress? As your guilty conscience? As your convenient on-call physician? Ryan's mouth opened but no words came out. When you two first got together 5 years ago, I wanted to separate you, Catherine continued. I tried to pay Maya to leave. But that remarkable young woman refused every cent. She swore she loved you, that she and her grandfather wouldn't accept payment for treating you. I saw how devoted she was to you, how you seemed to treasure her, and I allowed myself to hope. I thought you might actually marry her and bring her into our family properly. Catherine's voice grew colder. But I was wrong about you. The moment your first love came back, you wavered. All of Maya's years of dedication meant nothing to you. How did I raise such a fickle, faithless son? Ryan, who'd already been struggling with my sudden departure, felt something shatter as his mother articulated what he'd been trying not to admit to himself. Mom, please, he said desperately. Where did she go? I need to find her. I need to explain. No. That single word was final. Catherine looked at Jason and Isabelle, who'd followed Ryan outside and were watching the confrontation with wide eyes. Get in the car, Catherine ordered her son. Before you embarrass yourself further. She drove away before Jason could reach them, leaving Isabelle standing there with a confused, slightly guilty expression on her face. My first few days in Riverside City passed in a blur of hotel room peace and cautious exploration. I walked through parks I'd never seen, ate at restaurants where no one knew me, and slowly felt the tight knot in my chest begin to loosen. On my third evening, Marcus messaged me. Dr. Maya. My boss wants to take you to dinner to thank you properly for saving my life. Are you free tonight? I hesitated. I wasn't sure I was ready to socialize. But Marcus had been kind, and it seemed rude to refuse. The restaurant was elegant but not pretentious, overlooking the river. Marcus was already there when I arrived, standing next to a tall man with sharp, intelligent eyes. Dr. Maya. Marcus greeted me warmly. This is my boss, Ethan Thompson. The man beside him extended his hand. His grip was firm, professional. But his eyes were studying me with an intensity that made me slightly uncomfortable. It's a pleasure to meet you, Dr. Chen, Ethan said. His voice was deep, cultured. Marcus has told me you saved his life. Our company owes you a debt of gratitude. I shook my head quickly. I only did what any doctor would do. I'm just glad he's all right. As I moved past them toward the table, Ethan's next words stopped me in my tracks. Is your surname Chen? Are you related to Adrian Chen? My heart skipped. I turned slowly. You knew my father? Ethan's expression softened. My father owes his life to your father. Please, sit. We have a lot to talk about. Over dinner, Ethan explained that his father, William Thompson, had been critically ill 15 years ago. The best doctors in the country had given up hope. But my father had treated him using techniques passed down through generations of the Chin family. After your father passed away, my father searched everywhere for you and your grandfather, Ethan said quietly. When he heard that only an elderly man and a young girl remained in your family, he wanted to help look after you. But you'd disappeared. No one knew where you'd gone. Tears pricked my eyes. My grandfather and I moved to a small village for a few years after my father died. We just wanted peace and quiet. And your grandfather? Ethan asked gently. He passed away 5 years ago. I'm so sorry. The rest of the meal was easier. Ethan asked about my plans, my training, my hopes for opening a clinic. Unlike Ryan, who'd often interrupted me or checked his phone during our conversations, Ethan listened intently to every word. When Marcus mentioned that I was considering settling in Riverside City, Ethan's eyes lit up. My father isn't in the best health lately. Would you consider visiting our home to examine him? I'll pay whatever consultation fee you think is fair. Though I couldn't compare to my grandfather or father in skill, I could handle most ailments. I agreed. After arranging a time, Ethan insisted on driving me back to my hotel. I'd assumed there would be a chauffeur. Instead, after the driver delivered the car, Ethan dismissed him and opened the passenger door for me. Sitting beside Ethan in the quiet car, I watched the city lights slide past the windows. Dr. Maya, are you here on vacation? Ethan asked, breaking the comfortable silence. Sort of. I'm starting over. I plan to open a traditional Chinese medicine clinic, but I haven't decided where yet. Riverside City is my first stop. Traditional Chinese medicine, Ethan murmured, tapping his fingers thoughtfully on the steering wheel. Keeping you in Riverside City might be challenging, but I'm certainly going to try. I thought he was worried about his father's health. I smiled but said nothing. When we arrived at my hotel, Ethan walked me to the lobby. Get some rest. I'll pick you up tomorrow around 10 to visit my father, if that works for you. You don't need to pick me up. Just give me the address. My father insists, Ethan said with a slight smile. Humor an old man who's grateful to your family? What could I say to that? That night, lying in my hotel bed, I pulled out my new phone and stared at the number Catherine had given me. After a moment of hesitation, I sent her a message. Aunt Catherine, just letting you know I'm safe. Thank you for everything. Her response came quickly. Take care of yourself, dear girl. Remember what I said, love yourself first. If you ever need anything, call me. What I didn't know was that after Catherine sent that message, she saved my new number and then deleted our conversation. When Ryan came home that evening, desperate and exhausted from trying to find me, he demanded to know where I'd gone. So what if you find her? Catherine said coldly. Do you really think Maya will come back to you after what you've done? She has more self-respect than that. Ryan paced like a caged animal. Mom, please. Where did you find Grandfather Chin all those years ago? Tell me the address. I'll go there and wait for her. She has to come back eventually for her grandfather's things. Catherine looked at her son for a long moment. She knew Maya had no intention of returning. She also knew Ryan wouldn't accept that until he'd hit the wall himself. With a heavy sigh, she gave him the address of the small village where my grandfather and I had once lived. But Ryan, she added as he rushed toward the door, don't expect her to welcome you with open arms. That girl has been through enough because of you. The next morning, Ethan arrived at my hotel precisely at 10. He drove me to an exclusive neighborhood where elegant estates sat behind iron gates. The Thompson family home was stunning, traditional architecture with modern touches, surrounded by beautiful gardens. As we pulled up, I felt a flutter of nervousness. William Thompson was in his 70s, but he carried himself with the bearing of someone used to command and respect. Yet when his eyes landed on me, they filled with tears. You look so much like your father, he said hoarsely. The same eyes. The same gentle spirit. I didn't waste time with pleasantries. Mr. Thompson, Ethan mentioned you haven't been feeling well. What specific symptoms have you been experiencing? William and Ethan exchanged a glance. William extended his hand. To be honest, I don't know what's wrong. Could you examine me? I took his pulse carefully, examining both wrists with the traditional 3 positions and 3 pressures my grandfather had taught me. I checked his tongue coating, asked him questions about his diet, sleep, and energy levels. After several minutes, I sat back. Although I can still detect traces of that severe illness from years ago, my father treated it very thoroughly. Your overall health is much better than most people your age. Just maintain a balanced diet, exercise moderately, and keep up with regular hospital checkups. There's nothing to worry about. William started laughing. I knew it. Ethan, you said your old man wasn't sick. I looked between them, confused. Forgive us, Ethan said, looking slightly embarrassed. My father is fine, but once he heard you were in Riverside City, he insisted on meeting you. The health examination was just an excuse. Before I could respond, William spoke earnestly. Since you're here anyway, would you mind examining the rest of the family? We're happy to pay whatever consultation fee you think is appropriate. Because of the principles my grandfather instilled in me from childhood, when someone asks for medical help, I can't refuse. All right, I agreed. But how many people are we talking about? Ethan grinned. Well, that's a good question. Within an hour, the Thompson house was filled with people. Ethan had apparently sent a message to the family group chat. The daughter of the doctor who saved father's life is at the house. And they all came. Aunts, uncles, cousins, second cousins, family friends. They poured into the room one after another until I found myself staring at a crowd of at least 40 people. I can't possibly examine all these people in one day, I said, feeling slightly panicked. Ethan moved closer, his presence surprisingly steadying. Don't worry. We'll create an appointment schedule. How about 5 patients per day? That way you won't be overwhelmed, and everyone gets a consultation. How long will that take? He did some quick math. About 8 days. We do have a large family. He smiled apologetically. I know you mentioned leaving in a few days, but... You should have asked me first before announcing this to everyone, I interrupted, but there was no real anger in my voice. Looking at all the expectant faces around me, I couldn't bring myself to refuse. I apologize, Ethan said quietly, leaning close enough that only I could hear. But I have to confess, part of me wanted an excuse to keep you in Riverside City a little longer. The honesty in his eyes made my heart skip a beat. I quickly looked away. That afternoon, a servant created an organized schedule. I examined 5 family members, diagnosing minor ailments and prescribing simple herbal remedies. Unlike my years with Ryan, where I'd seen his friends' parents out of obligation, this felt different. The Thompson family was genuinely grateful, treating me with respect and warmth. Your family saved my brother's life, an elegant middle-aged woman told me as I examined her wrist pulse. We've wanted to thank you properly for 15 years. Please let us show you our gratitude. When the day's appointments finished, Ethan drove me back to my hotel. Along the way, he pointed out neighborhoods where I might want to look for clinic spaces. There's a property near the waterfront that's been empty for a while, he mentioned casually. It might be perfect for a traditional medicine practice. Would you like to see it tomorrow, before your afternoon appointments? I'm not sure I can afford waterfront property, I said with a slight laugh. Just look, he said. No commitment. Meanwhile, in the small village where my grandfather and I had once lived, Ryan sat on the steps of our old house, waiting. He'd been there for 3 days. The house was clearly abandoned, dust thick on the windows, weeds overtaking the small garden my grandfather had once tended. Neighbors passing by would occasionally stop to ask who he was looking for. When he mentioned my grandfather's name, they all said the same thing, the Chin family? They haven't lived here in years. After the old man died, the girl left and never came back. Ryan's company had been calling desperately. Meetings were being missed. Deals were falling through. His assistant had already made the trip down to try to convince him to return. Mr. Ryan, please. Your father is furious. He's threatening to remove you from the company if you don't come back immediately. But Ryan couldn't bring himself to leave. Some irrational part of him believed that if he just waited long enough, I would appear. On the 4th day, his father sent company security to physically bring him home. David Harrison was waiting in his study, his face thunderous. Have you lost your mind? Dad, I need to find Maya. Please, you have connections everywhere, Ryan pleaded desperately. No. David's tone was ice-cold and final. That young woman has suffered enough because of you. If she wants to be found, she'll reach out. Until then, you will leave her alone. Do you understand me? But I love her. Love? David's laugh was bitter. You don't know the meaning of the word. Love isn't keeping someone as a backup plan while you pine for someone else. Love isn't treating someone like an obligation. Your mother told me everything, Ryan. How you've been messaging your ex behind Maya's back. How you never intended to marry Maya, just string her along indefinitely. That's not enough. David held up his hand. You're suspended from all major company decisions for the next 6 months. Consider this a wake-up call. If you can't be faithful in your personal life, how can our business partners trust you professionally? Ryan left his father's study feeling hollowed out. Over the following weeks, he went through the motions of living, attending meetings he wasn't allowed to contribute to, eating meals he couldn't taste, sleeping fitfully in the guest room because our shared bedroom held too many memories. Isabelle tried to contact him several times, but he ignored her calls. Whatever he'd thought he felt for her had evaporated the moment he realized what he'd lost. Jason was the only friend who still spoke to him, and even those conversations were strained. I hope she's happy, Jason said one evening over drinks. Maya deserves happiness. She deserves someone who sees her value. Ryan stared into his glass. I know. In Riverside City, my life was transforming in ways I'd never imagined possible. The next morning, Ethan picked me up as promised and drove me to the waterfront property. The moment I stepped inside, I fell in love. Large windows flooded the space with natural light. The layout was perfect, a waiting area in front, several treatment rooms in back, even a small garden space where I could grow medicinal herbs. Ethan, this is beautiful, but I could never afford. It belongs to my family, he interrupted gently. And my father insists you use it for your clinic. Consider it, payment for what your father did for him. A life debt, if you will. That's too much. My father wouldn't have wanted. Your father saved my father's life, Ethan said firmly. This property has been sitting empty for 2 years. Having a skilled physician use it would honor both our fathers' legacies. Besides, he added with a slight smile, it's excellent business to have a talented doctor nearby. Tears welled in my eyes. For so long, I'd felt alone, adrift, without family or support. But standing in that space, with Ethan beside me, I realized something profound. Family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the people who choose to stand by you. Thank you, I whispered. I don't know how to repay this kindness. Just be happy, Ethan replied softly. That's all we ask. Over the next 3 weeks, my days fell into a comfortable routine. Every morning, Ethan or his aunt would pick me up. I'd spend mornings examining Thompson family members and afternoons planning my clinic. Ethan connected me with contractors, helped me navigate business permits, and even assisted in designing the clinic sign. His cousin Sophia, a graphic designer, created beautiful calligraphy for the sign, Chin Traditional Medicine Clinic. Your grandfather and father would be so proud, Sophia said as she showed me the design. You're carrying on their legacy. The Thompson family treated me like one of their own. William insisted I join them for Sunday dinners. The aunts brought me homemade soup. The younger cousins asked me to teach them about herbal medicine. And Ethan. Ethan was always there, steady and supportive, never pushing but always present. One evening, after a particularly long day of consultations, Ethan drove me to a quiet spot by the river. The sunset painted the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. Maya, he began carefully, I want to be honest with you about something. My heart skipped nervously. Okay. When Marcus first told me about the woman who saved his life, I was simply grateful, Ethan said, gazing out at the water. But when I learned you were the daughter of the man who saved my father, I felt like fate had brought you to us. And then, when I actually met you. He turned to face me fully. Maya, I know you've been hurt. I can see it in your eyes sometimes, when you think no one is looking. I don't know what happened in your past, and I won't ask unless you want to tell me. But I want you to know something important. He took a deep breath. Over these past weeks, I've come to admire you deeply. Not just because of your family's legacy or your medical skill, but because of who you are. Your compassion, your strength, your quiet determination to rebuild your life. You're remarkable, Maya Chen. My breath caught in my throat. I'm not asking for anything right now, Ethan continued quickly. You need time to heal, to find yourself again. I understand that. I just wanted you to know that when you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'd like the chance to show you what it means to be truly valued. To be someone's first choice, not their obligation. Tears spilled down my cheeks. Ryan had never spoken to me like this, with such honesty and respect. He'd never acknowledged my pain or given me space to heal. He just expected me to always be there, waiting. Thank you, I managed to say. For being patient. For being kind. For seeing me as a person, not just a means to an end. Ethan reached out and gently wiped away my tears. You deserve so much more than you've been given, Maya. I hope someday you'll believe that. 2 months after I left Sterling City, my clinic officially opened. The Thompson family came out in force for the grand opening. William cut the ribbon, his eyes misty with emotion. Your father would be incredibly proud, he told me. You're honoring his memory in the best possible way. The clinic was packed from day one. Word had spread through the Thompson family's extensive network about the skilled physician who'd returned to continue her family's healing legacy. Patients came with everything from chronic pain to digestive issues to insomnia. I found deep satisfaction in the work. Each person I helped felt like a tribute to my grandfather and father. Their teachings lived on through me. One afternoon, about 3 months after opening, I was treating an elderly woman for joint pain when she mentioned her son worked in Sterling City. Oh, you're from there originally? She asked. My son said there's quite the scandal in the business community. Some heir to a major company got demoted because he drove away the woman who saved his life. Shameful behavior. My hand stilled briefly on her wrist, but I kept my voice neutral. How unfortunate for everyone involved. The young woman left the city entirely, I heard. Can't blame her. When someone shows you they don't value you, the wise thing is to walk away. Very wise indeed, I murmured. That evening, I received an unexpected message from Jason. Maya, I hope you're doing well. I wanted you to know that Ryan isn't the same person anymore. What he did to you destroyed something in him. Isabelle ended their arrangement when she realized he was still in love with you. His father demoted him significantly. Even his mother barely speaks to him. I'm not asking you to forgive him or come back. I just thought you should know the truth. He lost everything when he lost you. I stared at the message for a long time. A small part of me, a very small part, felt a twinge of sympathy for Ryan. But mostly, I felt nothing. Or perhaps more accurately, I felt free. The man who had once been the center of my world was now just a character in a story I'd closed the book on. I typed back, thank you for telling me, Jason. I wish him well, but that chapter of my life is over. I'm happy now. Truly, genuinely happy. And I was. Every morning, I woke up excited to go to work. Every evening, I returned to my apartment feeling fulfilled. The Thompson family had become the family I'd never had. William treated me like a daughter. Sophia and the other cousins had become close friends. And Ethan, with each passing day, Ethan was becoming something more. 6 months after opening my clinic, Ethan asked me to dinner at an elegant restaurant overlooking the river, the same place where we'd first met. I have something to tell you, I said as we sat down. I have something to tell you too, he replied with a smile. You go first. I took a deep breath. 5 years ago, I fell in love with a man who was sick. My grandfather and I treated him, and he recovered. We started dating, and I thought we'd get married. But he never really loved me, he just felt guilty and obligated. He was in love with someone else the whole time. When I found out, I left. That's why I came to Riverside City. Ethan listened intently, his expression serious. I'm telling you this because I want you to understand where I was when we met. I was broken and lost. But these past 6 months, you and your family have helped me heal. You've shown me what genuine kindness looks like, what real support means. And I've realized something important. I met his eyes directly. I've fallen in love with you, Ethan. Not out of obligation or gratitude, but because of who you are. Because you're patient and kind and honest. Because you see me as a person worth valuing. Because you've given me space to heal while making it clear you'll be there when I'm ready. Ethan's eyes glistened with emotion. Maya, I've been in love with you since the moment you started arguing with me about payment for your medical services at our first dinner. You were so fierce and proud, refusing to be treated like you owed anyone anything. These past 6 months have been both wonderful and torturous. Wonderful because I got to know you, torturous because I couldn't tell you how deeply I care for you. He reached across the table and took my hands. I don't want to rush you or pressure you. But I need you to know, from this moment forward, you'll always be my first choice. Not my obligation, not my backup plan. My first, my only, my everything. If you'll have me. Yes, I whispered through happy tears. Yes, absolutely yes. He came around the table and pulled me into his arms. For the first time since my grandfather died, I felt completely at home. 1 year after I left Sterling City, I stood in the beautiful gardens of the Thompson estate, wearing a simple ivory dress. The entire Thompson family was there, along with my patients who had become like family. Even Marcus gave a speech about how fate had brought me into their lives. And Catherine Harrison was there too. When I'd sent her an invitation, she'd called me immediately, her voice thick with emotion. I'm so proud of you, Maya. So incredibly proud. Your grandfather would be overjoyed to see how you've thrived. Now, as I walked down the garden path toward Ethan, Catherine caught my eye and nodded approvingly. She'd come alone, Ryan wasn't invited. Later, she pulled me aside. I have something to tell you, she said quietly. Ryan asked me to give you a message. I told him I wouldn't, but I'll let you decide if you want to hear it. I considered for a moment, then shook my head. No, thank you. Whatever he needs to say, it doesn't matter anymore. I've moved on. I'm happy. That's all that matters. Catherine smiled and hugged me tightly. You chose yourself, Maya. That took real courage. Never forget how strong you are. As Ethan and I exchanged our vows, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. The heartbreak with Ryan had nearly destroyed me, but it had also freed me. It had forced me to discover my own worth, to build a life based on my own terms. I'd learned that love shouldn't diminish you, it should elevate you. It should honor your worth, celebrate your strengths, and support your dreams. Real love doesn't make you question your value, it confirms it every single day. When Ethan kissed me and the gathered crowd erupted in cheers, I felt my grandfather's and father's spirits surrounding me with love and approval. 5 years later, my clinic had expanded to include 3 associate physicians trained in traditional Chinese medicine. We'd opened a second location across town. I'd also started teaching part-time at the university, passing on my family's knowledge to the next generation. Ethan and I had 2 children, a daughter named Grace, after my beloved grandmother, and a son named Adrian, after my father. William doted on them shamelessly, often joking that becoming a great-grandfather was better than being a CEO. One afternoon, as I was closing the clinic, Marcus rushed in. Dr. Maya. There's someone outside who's asking to see you. He says it's important. His name is Ryan Harrison. My hand stilled on the file I was organizing. After 5 years, Ryan had finally found me. Tell him I'll be out in a few minutes, I said calmly. I took my time finishing my paperwork, removing my medical coat, gathering my things. When I finally stepped outside, I found Ryan standing by a car, looking older and more worn than I remembered. "Maya," he breathed, his eyes drinking in the sight of me. You look wonderful." "Thank you. What can I do for you, Ryan?" He flinched at my formal tone. I've been looking for you for years. I needed to tell you how sorry I am. How deeply, terribly sorry. I was a fool. I took you for granted. I didn't realize what I had until I lost you. These past 5 years have been hell without you." I looked at him with compassion but no longing. "I'm sorry you've been suffering, Ryan. Truly. But I've moved on. I have a husband who loves me, 2 beautiful children, a thriving medical practice, and a life I've built for myself. I'm happy. Please," he begged, tears streaming down his face. "Please give me another chance. I'll do anything. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." "Ryan," I said gently but firmly, "you taught me an important lesson, though I'm sure you didn't mean to. You taught me that I deserve to be someone's first choice, not their obligation. That I deserve honesty and respect, not manipulation and lies. That I deserve a partner who values me, not one who tolerates me while wishing I were someone else." I gestured toward the clinic behind me. "You see this? This is what I built after I left you. I discovered who I am without trying to fit into someone else's life. I found people who genuinely care about me, not because they owe me something, but because they choose to." "I was wrong," Ryan whispered. "So terribly wrong." "Yes, you were. But you did me a favor, Ryan. If you hadn't betrayed me, I might have spent my entire life settling for crumbs of affection, believing that was all I deserved. Your betrayal set me free." Just then, Ethan's car pulled up. He got out, immediately assessing the situation. When he saw Ryan's tears and my composed expression, he understood. "Everything okay here?" Ethan asked, coming to stand beside me, his hand warm and protective on my lower back. "Everything's fine," I assured him. "Ryan was just leaving." Ryan looked between Ethan and me, seeing the genuine love and partnership in our body language. "You're really happy," he said, as if just realizing it. "I really am," I confirmed. "I wish you happiness too, Ryan. I truly do. But it won't be with me. Goodbye." I turned away from my past and walked toward my future, Ethan's arm around my waist. As we drove away, I saw Ryan in the side mirror, standing alone in the parking lot, watching us leave. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked gently. "I'm perfect," I replied, meaning it completely. "Let's go home. Grace and Adrian are waiting." And as we drove through Riverside City, my home, my chosen life, I felt nothing but gratitude. Gratitude for the heartbreak that had set me free. Gratitude for the family that had taken me in. Gratitude for the man beside me who loved me unconditionally. Gratitude for the life I'd built from the ashes of my old one. Sometimes the greatest gift is not getting what you thought you wanted. Sometimes it's losing everything, so you can discover what you truly need. And what I needed wasn't to be someone's obligation or guilt. What I needed was to be my own person first, strong, independent, valued. Only then could I truly be someone's partner. Ryan had taught me what I didn't want. Ethan had shown me what I deserved. And I had taught myself the most important lesson of all, that my worth wasn't determined by who loved me, but by how I loved myself. The end.